President Trump and President Peña Nieto of Mexico have reached an historic agreement. One of the effects of that agreement, immediate. The Mexican government not permitting that caravan of mostly Honduran nationals to make their way across Mexico, moving north to our border. That is ended. The mob of mostly Honduran nationals, led by left-wing activists and socialist politicians from primarily Honduras, has been blocked by Mexican authorities. The Hondurans rushed a Guatemalan border fence. Then they clashed with Mexican law enforcement officers, and 4 of those Mexican law enforcement officers were injured.
And they want to come into our country, and they're criminals. And it's not happening on my watch. It's not going to happen. So as of this moment, I thank Mexico.
We'll have the very latest for you tonight on the president's historic agreement with not only the Mexican president, but also with the participation of his successor, the incoming president, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, as well. We'll take up what all of this means for America's broken borders and, yes, the midterm elections. Also tonight, President Trump has left Montana and is in Mesa, Arizona, campaigning for Senate candidate Martha McSally. The midterms now just 18 days away. The latest polling showing Republican chances to hold both the Senate and the House are rising as President Trump is using almost every available moment working hard to support Republican candidates as no president of either party has ever done before. And the president calling out mob mentality among the left and the outrageous policies of the radical Dems.
Democrats produce mobs. Republicans produce jobs. Of Kavanaugh, the caravan, law and order, and common sense.
I love that. Common sense, Kavanaugh, and the very idea that this caravan has been stopped by this historic agreement reached between the governments of Mexico and the United States. Extraordinary. Among our guests tonight, Republican strategist Ed Rollins, social media stars Diamond and Silk, and another deep state swamp creature emerges, long enough to basically tell Congress and the American people, of course, to go to hell. She's Nellie Orr, refusing to talk about her role in promoting the fraudulent Clinton-constructed Trump dossier. Congressman Matt Gaetz was at today's closed-door hearing. He joins us tonight. We'll be talking all about it. Well, maybe not all about it, but about as much as he can. We begin tonight with breaking news. The Saudi government has admitted that Jamal Khashoggi was killed at their consulate in Istanbul, Turkey. State television reporting discussions between Khashoggi and people who were questioning him led to an argument and then fighting, hand-to-hand fighting, that led to his death. 18 people have been arrested in connection to that death by the Saudis. The majority of those 18 are said to have been seen on surveillance footage of the consulate. That surveillance footage, of course, provided, much of it at least, by the Turks. Saudi King bin Salman has also fired his deputy intelligence chief and a royal court advisor. President Trump, as I said, in Arizona tonight, he's repeating he would work with Congress to come up with any appropriate consequences for Saudi Arabia.
I would certainly make that recommendation to Congress, but I will very much listen to what Congress has to say. They feel very strongly about it also. So I'll be doing this with Congress.
The president seated there during a ceremony to sign a presidential memorandum that assures water supplies for the state of California. We'll be keeping you updated throughout the night as the story on Khashoggi and the Saudi government, the arrest and the level of that investigation become available to us. Also tonight, the president achieving that historic victory, announcing the deal with Mexico that would halt the illegal immigration of Central Americans through Mexico to the United States over our southern border. That deal establishes UN refugee shelters that will be set up south of north of Mexico's border with Guatemala. Persons without proper documentation will not be allowed to enter Mexico. If anyone bypasses the restrictions and makes it into the United States, the Mexican government will allow the United States to return them to Mexico rather than hold them in detention centers. Today, members of the caravan broke through that Guatemalan border fence I just reported to you about, and they just simply ran through all of that toward Mexican territory, where they were met by Mexican police who pushed the illegals back with pepper spray. Despite being pushed back, the throngs of Central Americans, as you see here, taunting police, claiming that they will enter Mexico one way or another. President Trump thanking the government of Mexico today for their work, but also making it clear if this agreement does not work, he will take action of his own.
As of this moment, I thank Mexico. I hope they continue, but as of this moment, I thank Mexico. If that doesn't work out, we're calling up the military, not the Guard, we're calling up the military. And we're going to have the military stationed. They're not coming into this country. They might as well turn back. They're not coming into this country.
The president making it very plain exactly how it will be. For the first time, an American president making it very clear that our borders will be defended. Well, with the midterm elections now just 18 days away, President Trump and his Republican Party using his historic deal with Mexico to build upon momentum tied to the confirmation of Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh, as well as bringing order to the nation's border and also creating for the first time, it appears in these early stages, creating a real partnership between the government of Mexico and that of the United States to deal with border security, as well as end the flow of illegal immigrants. What are the implications for the midterm elections? They could be profound, and no one is less happy about this agreement, obviously, than the radical Dems, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, and all who had been counting on being able to have the optics of a horde of illegals traversing Mexico and then crashing through the border of the United States. That is not happening. In the House of Representatives, let's take a look at the balance of power. The Dems now need 25 seats to take control, to take the majority. And according to Fox News, there are 191 races that are likely Democrat. 16 races lean their way. And Republicans have 171 safe seats, 26 leaning their way as of today. 31 other races for the House of Representatives are now considered toss-ups. Of those races, 9 are currently open seats. 22 of them are held by Republicans, none held by the Dems. It is clear that the Republicans face considerable vulnerability. Over on the Senate side, it's a razor-thin margin. The radical left only needs to win 2 seats in order to gain control. 20 races currently likely Democrat, 2 lean their way. The Republicans have 6 likely victories and also 2 leaning their way. 5 Senate seats are now considered a toss-up. 1 for the Republican seat held by Senator Dean Heller of Nevada. 1, the departing Jeff Flake's open seat in Arizona. The 3 others now held by radical Dems. A closer margin, certainly, in the Senate. Joining me now to talk about all of this, the latest developments with the historic agreement with the government of Mexico, the Mexican government's decision to stop that caravan that had principally Honduran nationals that had intended to reach our southern border, and the breakdown of these balance of power numbers leading into the November 6th election. As I said, 18 days away. Top strategist for Great America PAC, former Reagan White House political director, Fox News political analyst, and savant. Ed Rollins joins us tonight.
Thank you.
This looks like first of all, the balance of power. You have said that you don't believe that the Republicans can hold this. The margins are tough, but What do you think tonight?
Well, they can. I mean, the bottom line is that they're defending a lot of seats. Every seat is a Republican seat.
Right.
There's 2 or 3 Democrat seats. So we can't lose. There's about 15 they're guesstimating at this point in time are gone of our seats. As you list in the list, which is pretty accurate there.
Pretty accurate. Well, as pretty accurate as these estimates can be, right?
Right. We won't know until after the election. As I've said it many times, tell me who's going to vote, I'll tell you who's going to win. Yeah. What we don't know, the president has gone and done a magnificent job. And I ran a president around the country. No one's done it better than Donald Trump has.
Let's talk about something.
Right.
This is a president who, through the week, is somewhere three days a week. On the weekends is at another rally. Right. That's 4 rallies a week. In my career, I've never seen a president devote this kind of energy and time and support to a midterm election.
There never has been. And the difference will be he can win these Senate seats. And the Senate seats, there's one you left out, is Tennessee, where we have another open seat. He's done a masterful job there. He has taken, the perfect example is Heller.
And that seat right now, Marsha Blackburn is in the lead.
She's in the lead. They're all very close. They're all within 3 or 4 points. The president going in there, energizing his base, getting more voters out there can make all the difference in the world. Heller was a guy who's the most vulnerable guy. Hillary carried that district in Nevada. The president's been there 12 times. He has now turned from being an anti-Trump to a very strong Trump, and he basically is a 2 or 3 point.
If he is not pro, I've come to think of it. I mean, why would anybody be anti-Trump? Here is a man who's turned around the economy. Right. This is an economy, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, who, by the way, I think the president is absolutely right. Jerome Powell is out of his mind to be raising rates at this pace. And he is jeopardizing a strong economy and markets that are performing beautifully. There's 2% inflation. That's the target. What's the excuse? But anyway, getting back to it. This president has done, there is nothing that he can be marked down for.
Nothing he could do, and equally as important, no one has ever had a stronger economy, at least in the last 50 years that I've been around the game, as this president has driving this agenda. Yeah. It should be a slam dunk. It should be, our biggest problem in the House is we have 40-plus House members who gave up their seats to run for something else. So going in and defending those seats, we don't have incumbents.
I knew they couldn't win.
Or they lost their chairmanship, so they didn't want to go back, and that's what makes us difficult.
Yeah, it makes it difficult because also you've got a rhino, lame duck speaker who hasn't done a thing. As far as I can tell, he's done nothing, and the support that has been divided in both the House and the Senate. Right. Mitch McConnell has his favorites. The Senate Campaign Committee is following those favorites and punishing those who are conservatives primarily that he doesn't get along so well with. And the same thing is happening in the House. Yet Ryan should have been out of there. Jordan should have been in, and you would have had an entirely different result. Don't you agree?
Totally. You would have certainly had a message out there. We have no message. You've not seen the speaker out there anywhere. I mean, he should be on all these talk shows saying why you should be electing Republicans. He's not doing any of that. So,
do you realize that McConnell and Ryan are out talking nonsense, talking about entitlements, and the president said, and God bless him, he said all of that is just. He said it very kindly and gently. They're full of it. And McConnell and Ryan don't understand who they are.
Well, they don't understand the public either, because the truth of the matter is this president, with this issue going on in Mexico right now, probably saves Cruz, who is in pretty good shape in Texas, probably gives us the Arizona seat, probably helps us in the Nevada seat. Well, that's his efforts.
I don't understand why he would even need to have, this president should be able to say, this man, this woman, are supporting the Trump agenda, the Trump doctrine, and please vote for them. And I can't understand why every American wouldn't do it. I mean, I really don't. How could they ask for a better economy than under this president? How could they ask for better and more positive and effective foreign policy than under this president? How could they ask for more problems to be solved, not talked about, yapped about by some blowhard, blathering politician for president? I have 2 names come to mind in a hurry. Shall I mention Obama and Bush?
Sure.
And this president is setting, I've said it, he's the most consequential president since FDR, in my judgment. And he is, without question, setting the standards for presidents for decades and decades to come.
Well, without his policies and without his efforts in these campaigns, this would not even be a close race in either the Senate or the House. So.
And you know what I like? I love the fools over on K Street manipulating Mitchell and McConnell to urge every candidate to talk about tax cuts instead of immigration, instead of border security, instead of all that this president has accomplished. These people, first of all, are disloyal, but secondly, they're somewhat moronic. Don't you think?
Well, they have vested interests.
They have vested interests, which influences their moronic
right.
behavior. Just behavior. We're not calling them names. Ed Rollins.
Thank you, sir.
Are we calling them names?
We're not calling
We're
them
not
names.
calling names. Ed Rollins is always great
We
to
just
see.
repeat what the
Who wins the House?
I think the Democrats slightly win it, but it's not. There's no way. We haven't lost a seat yet, so it could still turn.
Yeah, and this president, I really believe this president is now, with this agreement with Mexico,
right.
Certainly, this should be the capstone on building an absolute, maintaining an absolute majority in the House.
Well, we definitely win the Senate, and I think we had 2 or 3 seats in the Senate.
Well, I'll take that.
I'll take that too.
But we got weeks to go here, so here we go.
And I want the House.
I want the House. We want it all, right?
We want
We're like everybody else.
We want everything. And we want we want Judge Ginsburg to retire.
You got it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Up next, the radical left's persistent attacks against Republicans.
Do you think that putting a sexual assaulter on the court is a victory for women?
Thank you, sir. God bless you.
So you believe in men assaulting women?
Why do these radicals wear masks? Aren't they proud? They're loud. They should be proud. Our next guest, part of a group targeted by those Democratic mobs. He joins us with more on their
Maria Bartiromo's.
The Saudi authorities have identified and they have arrested the 18 people they believe are responsible for the death of Jamal Khashoggi, but not before the radical Dems tried to blame President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner.
Let me get to the point that I think is most disturbing right now. The reporting that Jared Kushner may have, with U.S. intelligence, delivered a hit list, an enemies list, to the Crown Prince, to MBS in Saudi Arabia, and that the prince then may have acted on that, and one of the people that he took action against is Mr. Khashoggi.
That is Joaquin Castro. He is a congressman. He is also out of his mind and as reckless as he could be in his radicalism. Castro then tried to walk back his crazy comments. He said he was only calling for a congressional investigation based entirely on his fantasies, his nonsense that he spewed and then tried to recant. I mean, you can't make up these people. With just 18 days to go until the midterms, these images of radical leftist mobs should be in the forefront of our minds when casting our votes. Watch.
We believe survivors! We believe survivors! We believe survivors! God bless you! Patrick Hewitt! Patrick Hewitt! You don't need in peace! You don't need in no walls! Sanctuary for all! No borders! No walls! Sanctuary for all!
No human being is illegal!
You are allowing someone who is unwilling to take responsibility for his own actions.
Oh, ma'am, you're going to get arrested.
Arrested.
Senator, do you believe women?
What is it the president just said? The radical Dems produce mobs, Republicans produce jobs. Joining me now to talk about all of this, the radical left's vicious attacks and often violent attacks against Republicans. We're joined by Pete Holmberg. He's a Republican candidate for New York State Senate, District 28, also a member of the Metropolitan Republican Club. The club, first, Pete, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
The club vandalized.
Yes.
And we've got images of that we want to show you. Also, the mobs that showed up. This was, we're looking at the doors there that have Antifa, whatever you want to call them, the left-wing thugs who wear masks.
Yes.
I mean, what's your reaction? You brought in, who is it, Gavin McInnes, the guy that is responsible for the Proud Boys, quote unquote, a right-wing group. and they are attacked.
The members of our club like to see public figures up close.
Right.
They want to talk to them. They want to communicate with them
both
without
sides, all sides.
Exactly, all sides without the filter of the media or the internet. That's America. We get to listen. We get to convene behind closed doors and listen. And our members like to listen, and they wanted to hear what.
So what happened?
Well, there was protests all week. There was basically, I'm going to call it terrorism. If a 12-year-old throws a brick through a window, that's vandalism. If you're threatening someone's thought and telling them to limit their free speech, and you're threatening them, and then you throw bricks through the window and spray paint their doors, which is what happened to the Metropolitan Republican Club, I'm going to call that terrorism because they're doing it to impinge on your First Amendment rights. Absolutely.
And as we are approaching now 18 days, the midterms, we're seeing this mob mentality for what it is, and that is the left, the radical Dems, are trying to terrorize voters, and they're looking at these huge lines of people that are attending Trump rallies all across the country. I'm talking about miles and miles of folks in Montana, abandoning cars. Some say a mile away to get to the rally, and this is an effort to intimidate older folks, women, young people. This is horrible.
It's terrorism, and it's gotten worse the more successful President Trump has gotten. 4.2 GDP, as they see results, they can't fight with results. So they're fighting with emotional argument. And if you're fighting with emotional argument, eventually it's going to lead to violence and terror.
Well, that's where we are, and good for you for going for office and expressing your views and representing them.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you being with us, Pete.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
He's running for the New York State Senate. And by the way, you know, you may be a little lonely there if you win.
I hope I'm not lonely, but there's other Republicans there.
All right, Pete Holmberg, thanks.
Thank you.
Liberal college students falling head over heels for Texas Dem Beto O'Rourke. Doesn't he look Kennedy-esque to you? He does to some who are trying to prop him up. What do those students see in him that is so appealing? We take up their answers about his accomplishments. We'll talk with social media stars Diamond and Silk right here next. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Well, the group Campus Reform recently visited Texas A&M University, and they found a lot of supporters there for Democratic senatorial candidate Beto O'Rourke. And then they asked, well, why are you supporting this guy, and what are his accomplishments that so enamor you? Here are some of the, well, what they call answers.
Are there any accomplishments in his career that you can point to that would make him a good person for office?
I am not aware of a lot of specific accomplishments that he has made.
I don't know any, so I can't say anything for that.
I think he's accomplished, like, honestly getting his name out there. I think for not doing much, it sounds like he's really...
But it's just being popular an accomplishment, though, like career accomplishments.
I honestly couldn't point to anything. I'm just trying to... You know, I'm not as educated as I would like to be.
I mean, he's been working really hard with everything that he's been doing around Texas. Maybe he doesn't really have the platform to make a huge difference right now.
You can be as informed about a position without actually doing it.
Well, I love that answer. And by the way, that fella turns out to have really been paying attention to some of the folks who have been elected, because they are uninformed and have no idea in the world what they're doing. But those young folks, I think probably they might spend a little more time on studies and learning rather than maybe politics. You know, who knows? Maybe that's just the way it is for Beto O'Rourke. Many are wondering now why the leading candidates to lead the Democratic ticket in 2020 will all be more than 70 years old at the time of the election. Maybe taking a look at one of the party's rising stars will explain it to us why all these older folks are, well, critically needed by the Dems.
Sometimes people just lose their mind. They're like, wait, you're knocking on my door? It's like back in the day when you would knock on the door and carry a big check. Okay. Yeah. Like, when people would be like, is this real? And it's like, yeah, no,
we're doing the work.
And you travel with them and then you speak on their behalf?
Yeah.
In their own hometown?
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
And
yeah.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, everyone.
There's the future of the Democratic Party right there. Joining me now to talk about these radical Dems and their hopeless efforts to gain political power, social media superstars, President Trump's most loyal supporters, Diamond and Silk. Great to have you both with us. Let me ask you, what did you think, first of all, of those young folks at Texas A&M and couldn't come up with a single accomplishment for O'Rourke, but yet they support him? What do you think, Diamond?
I just feel so sad for them because they don't have any idea. They don't have a clue.
Yeah.
You know, you could be voting for socialism. You can be voting to be oppressed and suppressed and not even realize. You have to know who you are voting for. So it's sad that they don't know, but you need to know who you're voting and what type of system you're voting in.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these here cities and these states are being ran by Democrats and they're being ran in the ground.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of how, you know, with us being Black people, how we allowed the Democrats to brainwash us. And instead of looking at the person and looking at the context of what's going on and how it affects us, we were looking at, this is how they told you to vote, straight Democrats. We wasn't looking at the context of what was going on. So it kind of put me in the mind of that.
Yeah, and, you know, the truth is that across the country, people are not, for years, have not paid attention to what's going on. We have a president, don't we, who now has introduced folks to what are the consequences of so-called free trade. It turns out it's cost us millions of jobs, trillions of dollars, and no one could ever answer the question truthfully until this man stepped into the Oval Office. What do you think?
Well, you're absolutely right. It's going to be free and fair trade across the board. You're not going to get over on us. We're not going to be kicking out a lot of money and then you don't give us anything in return. And I love that the president, you know what I love? He's working for the United States of America. He's working for the American people when it comes to these things. Not only on trade, but making sure that Americans have jobs. They can pick and choose what job they want. And that's what we love about our president.
And not just jobs, not just any job, but a good job.
Right.
That's what I want to get out.
With a decent wage.
Yeah.
You know, and as you point out correctly, I mean, our middle class is not only growing, but household net worth, income is rising for the first time in 20 years. It's amazing. Diamond and Silk, you're amazing, and we're always delighted that when you take time to join us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, and great to see you. Up next, we continue to follow new developments in the investigation of the death of Saudi activist, intelligence operator, controversial figure. We'll find out ultimately just exactly who he was, Jamal Khashoggi. Also, one of the deep state's key players leaves lawmakers on Capitol Hill wanting more. We'll take up Nellie Orr. Here next, Matt Gaetz joins us. We're breaking news tonight. Saudi television confirming that Jamal Khashoggi was killed in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Turkey. The White House released a statement. That statement reads as this. The United States acknowledging the announcement from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia that its investigation into the fate of Jamal Khashoggi is progressing and that it has taken action against suspects it has identified. Its investigation into the fate of Jamal Khashoggi is progressing and that it has taken action against suspects it has identified thus far. We will continue to closely follow the international investigations into this tragic incident and advocate for justice that is timely, transparent, and in accordance with all due process. Elsewhere tonight, the Central American caravan full of Honduran nationals bound for the United States arrived at the border between Guatemala and Mexico. President Trump achieving a historic victory, announcing an agreement with the president of Mexico that halts the caravan making its way, that had intended to make its way through Mexico to reach the U.S. southern border. Indeed, the fact is that caravan has been stopped at the Guatemalan border. Nellie Orr only telling part of her story today on Capitol Hill. House Republicans say they never had the opportunity to question her about how and why her husband, DOJ official Bruce Orr, passed an anti-Trump fraudulent dossier to the FBI in the 2016 presidential election. That's because Nellie Orr invoked spousal privilege that protects a couple's private communications. My guest tonight, present for today's 5-hour closed-door hearing with Nellie Orr, and we are joined now by Congressman Matt Gaetz, joining us, a member of the House Judiciary Committee. Great to have you with us, Congressman.
Good to be with you, Lou.
5 hours, was it worth it?
Today, we did not get a lot of new information. Nellie Orr frequently invoked the spousal privilege, and what was troubling to me is that it wasn't merely that Nellie Orr wouldn't tell us the substance of her communications with her husband. She would not tell us whether conversations even occurred regarding the subject. Now, what should concern all Americans, Lou, is the notion that if you hire the right government official's spouse, that you get some sort of special treatment, that you get your information to receive some sort of priority that it otherwise wouldn't. And we received testimony just yesterday from the former general counsel to the FBI that it was very unusual that he had Bruce Orr, the husband of Nellie Orr, the husband of the person that Fusion GPS had hired to smear President Trump, that you had the very spouse of that individual shuttling information to the general counsel of the FBI and trying to make political dirt look like a legitimate basis to start an investigation. That is what is so corrupt, and that's what we've got to expose.
There's something else I'd like you to help me understand and the audience, and that's why Rod Rosenstein will go to the Hill next week and will only be questioned by the chairman of House Oversight and Judiciary and the ranking Democratic members, the two ranking members of those two committees. I mean, that is, to me, infuriating because both chairmen, Trey Gowdy and Bob Goodlatte, are retiring. They have never accomplished a single damn thing in their careers, and every investigation they have led has resulted in zero. Am I wrong?
Lou, this is a bunch of crap. You can't have a circumstance where some of the most important facts that the American people need to know about whether the person running the freaking Justice Department was trying to wear a wire on the president and actually organize cabinet officials to unseat Donald Trump. We're not going to put him under oath in front of the American people. We're not going to have all of the committee members question his motives, his actions, how he was understood by his colleagues. This is the way you behave if you don't really want to know the truth. You take Rod Rosenstein and you throw him in a secret room with two Democrats and two retiring Republicans who won't even be around for any sake of continuity in a few months. And then you just say, case closed, it's all over, we've got our answers. And by the way, Lou, that then becomes a basis for Rod Rosenstein not to come back, because then he could say, well, I was already there in a classified setting. So this is, in my fear, is that you've got Republicans and Democrats working together to slow roll our oversight, and the American people know what's going on. You know what's going on. It's garbage because they don't really want to know what happened.
Yeah, and congratulations to your lame duck rhino speaker, Paul Ryan, who as usual is sucking up establishment swamp water. Congressman Matt Gaetz will not be there for that questioning. Neither will Congressman Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows, and the list goes on.
Well, that's who you want to keep out, Lou. If you were trying to stop the truth from coming out, you wouldn't want Jim Jordan, Mark Meadows, Matt Gaetz, Andy Biggs, and others there. You would want it to be a small group.
Absolutely. And somehow, some coward let it happen. I'm sorry to be so direct about that, but you know, you sort of set the standard with your candor. As always, we appreciate it, Congressman Matt Gaetz. Thanks so much. Be sure to vote on our poll tonight. The question is, do you think President Trump's historic agreement with Mexico to stop that caravan of Honduran nationals raises the Republican odds of keeping control of Congress? Cast your vote on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Up next, a large crowd gathering in Mesa, Arizona tonight. That's right, President Trump holding another big rally supporting Republican Senate candidate Martha McSally. Look at that. Here we go again. We take that up and more right after the break with our panel. Stay with us. As we await the president taking the stage in Mesa, Arizona, rallying there for Republican Senate candidate Martha McSally, who is leading in the latest polls. Last night, the president in Missoula, Montana, where thousands of people were look at this. I was saying earlier that there are miles and miles of people line up for these rallies. This is wonderful. And I have to say, if your name happens to be John Tester, you've got to be a little nervous today after watching that. They're waiting to get into the president. We're waiting to get into the president's event at the hangar in Missoula International Airport. Some of the folks leaving their cars miles away. They were bused to the venue. A local reporter said his jaw dropped at the length of those lines and cars trying to get in. Well, joining us tonight, Dom Giordano, radio talk show host on Philadelphia's WPHT. Good to see you. And Tammy Bruce, Washington Times columnist.
Hi there.
Fox
Hi, guys.
Business contributor. Great to have you with us. Let's start with, first of all, the caravan and this incredible, to me, it is utterly amazing. This president has done what I don't think anyone even, it occurred to them how to do what the president has achieved. But to pull that off is amazing, don't you think, Tammy?
Yeah, and this is what's key, because we've seen this. This has been an issue for years. And suddenly, the President of the United States is using tools in the tool chest that everyone has had. But he's serious about it. And what I loved today was his statement about how they are not going to get in. The tone, the demeanor, his manner. People are, we have not seen that. That is leadership. That is a man who is saying what he believes in. Feels it in his heart, and he's doing it for the right reasons. It's magnificent.
And Dom, I don't care whether a person is for or against this president. They understand as they listen to him that he cares about the country. And as he put it, he cares about every single American, every American. And he's made it clear with all that he's accomplished. I mean, can you name, Dom, one thing that this president has not delivered on?
Well, I wouldn't say hasn't delivered on, Lou, due to his own. It's due to the Congress and
no, but I'm talking about he that was within his control.
I can't. And what I was going to say is what I like is, too, the things that he hasn't fully finalized, he doesn't give up on. He continues to go back on the wall again and again and again. And most people would have let that go by now and hope that people forgot about it. He has not forgotten. He will come back to that if it takes 100 times to get that done.
Yeah.
I guarantee you what this president has done with this agreement with the Mexican government, with Peña Nieto, and also the participation of the incoming president, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, who takes office in December. I mean, this has the potential to be a foundational transformation for both countries, and to secure that border, perhaps even better than a wall could have. We will, that's all very much optimistic, an optimistic outlook. But what he has done is just, I think, may change whatever the outcome would have been in these midterm elections. This has to shore up the Republican Party because they have a president who actually is just accomplishing everything, keeping promises. He doesn't, as you say, Dom, forget. And Tammy, the country couldn't ask for a better economy or stronger foreign policy.
And even the things that we're facing that are difficult, like the mob issue, the Democrats, that we want, of course, it's the difference between jobs versus mobs. This caravan coming up with people and a dynamic that was set into motion and trained by Democrats over the years. The general problems, the things that we face here in the country are starkly the opposite of what the president is doing, and indications in each case of what the problem with the Democrats is, and what you have the choice to be in November in a few short couple weeks is: do you want mobs or do you want jobs? Do you want security for people in every country where we're actually treating people decently, so Hondurans don't need to move through several countries to get here? They can live in their own because it will be a decent place.
Don Giordano, you get the last word.
Yeah, the key thing here is for Republicans at the congressional level, like Gates, who just had one I know agrees with this, to seize on this now of what Trump has done here, rather than just taking the benefit of it and trying to deep six it, they must endorse, they must grab onto this if they want to energize
This is
voters.
the future. Plus, it's because it's the future. This is not an acute situation.
Exactly. That's right. It's not static. It's the future.
Yeah.
Because of this president, those lobbyists over on K Street are puking. And because of this president, Americans, working men and women, their families, the middle class, their wages are going up. Their jobs are, there are more jobs than there are folks looking for them. This is a halcyon moment in American history, thanks to this president. Tammy Bruce, Dom Giordano, thanks to you. We appreciate you both. Up next, we'll have more on the historical deal struck by the president and Mexico to halt a caravan of illegals who wanted to be illegal immigrants showing up at our southern border, making their way to America. Not this time. Stay with us. We'll be right back with